truth, and life. Here is the Brother Leon Show. You better recognize.
What's going on, listeners? This is your boy, Brother Leon, and you are tuning into another episode of the Brother Leon Show. So today, guys, we have coming back on the show, Apostle James Alford. And Apostle James is going to be talking about his new movie, The Light in the Darkness, Part 2, Africa Edition. Because the one thing that I want you guys to understand and know, man, we need deliverance. We need the deliverance ministry like never before because our society is falling. We need the ministry of deliverance as well as the prophetic ministry. But the one thing about all of this is that we need to hear the testimony. And the Bible says, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. So, guys, I can't wait to talk to Apostle Alford because, number one, a whole lot of things has transpired from the last time we talked. So we're going to, get caught up, see what's going on in his life and everything like that. And then we're going to talk about the movie and also talk about the journey. So, guys, stay tuned.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Apostle?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Man, it's good to hear your voice. Let me give you some applause. So I was just telling the listeners that we got to hear the testimony because, number one, the one thing that is definitely needed in our society right now is the ministry of deliverance. So I'm so glad to have you back on the show. I ain't gonna lie. I'm like, man, I can't wait to catch up with him because a whole lot of stuff done happened from COVID to the insurrection, a whole lot of stuff. And I mean, I know we ain't going to talk about all of that, but yeah, I'm just happy to hear your voice, sir. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, man, it was good to hear from you also, my friend.
Oh, yeah. So for those who do not didn't listen to the last episode that we did together, tell my listeners who you are.
Well, my name is James Alford. I'm a minister of the gospel first, a husband, a father, a filmmaker. And basically, I'm just here to allow God to use me in any capacity he sees fit. He saw fit to mainly use me in the arenas of discernment and the power of God. And so I primarily focus on those areas in my personal ministry, especially in the realm of like deliverance.
Wow, that's great. Let me give you some applause. So you came out with the film The Light in the Darkness, and you had a lot of deliverance ministers in that film, in that documentary, and it also, told you shared about your life and testimony in that film. So I just want to ask you, how was the first film received? Because I've never seen a film like this in my life.
Well, it was received very well for those who were able to catch it so far. It's one of those projects, man, since we didn't have a large, a lot of times with films and stuff, man, when they get released, they get a large viewership on the first couple of weeks, a month or two, then it kind of wanes down. Okay. But for this, it's just been kind of an even, people have just been watching it all the time, continually, for the last couple of years, man. And I had one reports of people who were dealing with demonic spirits, become fearful once they watched the movie. I had leaders that felt affirmed in their ministry and the calling that God had for them. Also, individuals that did not know about the ministry of deliverance, but actually had churches. They wanted to know more about the ministry of deliverance or just dealing with things as the movie talks about happens behind the scenes. One of the biggest problems I see in the body of Christ from being a church leader and just dealing with the whole aspect of ministry and Christianity and stuff like that is that people do everything based on what they see. And when you're dealing with spiritual things, I would say the majority of stuff you deal with is stuff you don't see. And so going from the world to living for Christ and being in the church, trying to be a Christian, you go into a dynamic that's outside of what you've probably been used to the majority of your life. You're dealing with things that are unseen. And not only unseen, but there's an adversary that's unseen, that's working. And so the film has really, really helped people to open their eyes, understand, look, there's a battle that we have to fight. And, the leader of that army is Satan.
Yeah, exactly. And I thank you for saying that, because I think the one thing that your film is, it's a tool. And you just said it affirmed a lot of ministries. So, God used that to propel people, as well as people to understand what is happening. And you hit the nail on the head saying, the unseen. Because I ain't gonna lie, if you can't see the enemy, you will not successfully defeat him if you can't see.
Absolutely. If you don't have a knowledge, that's one of the biggest things, man. People don't think they have to fight the enemy because he's hidden himself in many arenas. Yeah. Especially within the church. People deal with things in the church and they say they equate everything to an individual or happenstance. But everything is not, just a coincidence or an individual. Some things are coming directly from the realm of the demonic. And if you don't have the revelation for that, you'll spend your time going around in circles, never ever being able to come to a finality or find victory in certain areas of your life.
Exactly. Let me give you some applause for that. So, I can't help but ask, what made you want to do a sequel to the first film?
Well, man, I plan on doing many. There's so much. When I made this first film, I had someone say, well, man, there's so many things, so many different ways the film can go in. How are you going to try to get it all in the film? And I realized that, no, that I'm just going to, the first film is going to be kind of like that general overview type film. Yeah. And then from there, we'll start getting more detail into individual areas. And being it was in the pandemic, things were kind of hard to get accomplished for some of the other films we're working on. We decided to go with our African edition of The Light and Darkness. And that's basically about how witchcraft is being dealt with in the church in Africa. And so we decided to go with that. And, we're about to release it here pretty soon.
That's great. I got to give you some applause on that one. So let me ask you this. Do you have like I know you had Apostle Hopkins and then you had the other gentleman from Derek Prince Ministries. Is this sort of like the same format? You have people from Africa?
Yeah, they're leaders from Africa this time. First one was, Ministers in America. And this one, I'm in the film as a host, but the majority of conversation and information given coming directly from ministers in Africa, on the ground in Africa, dealing with this stuff. They've grown up in it. They live in it. They've been dealing with this thing from day one. And so I felt it best that it come directly from those people living in that environment, dealing with it on a day-to-day basis to tell their story.
Okay, that's great. That's definitely great. I can't help but ask you, did you come under any spiritual attacks putting this together?
Brother, that comes with the territory.
Okay. Can you kind of elaborate on some of that? Because I know, looking at the first film, and hearing your testimony from our first interview, I just want to know, has it kind of like repeated itself with this second one? Because it's like, Africa ain't no joke.
Yeah, we've definitely come under some attack with the the film crew that we had in Africa. We were halfway through all the interviews, or actually all the way through all the interviews, and the crew decided they wanted to quit because they decided they didn't want to do it anymore. So my guy out there had to go out and find a brand new crew to be able to do the filming. Once he sent over me all the files from the interviews and stuff like that, they were all corrupted. So we could go out and redo those files or redo the recordings. Then after we got all the files to edit and stuff like that, we had issues with, I got a brand new computer. It's got all the high end specs on it to make sure we don't have any problems with movies and stuff. And literally my computer was crashing every day. Every hour on the hour while I was in the editing process, it literally kept crashing. I didn't think I was going to be able to finish the movie because my computer I couldn't edit for 10 minutes without my whole computer crashing down. And it was a file that the computer should have been able to handle pretty easily. But yeah, we definitely had some things that have tried to stop and keep this from going forward. But what God has ordained, it shall come to pass. So,
amen. I gotta give you some applause on that one. So let me ask you this: how do you, since that first film and this film right here, how do you see the Deliverance ministry now?
When you say how do I see it now, what do you mean?
Meaning basically like, the urgency for it, but also do you has God given you specific revelation on, okay, this is what is needed in deliverance ministry? Because I think the one thing that I've seen is that there has to be a merging at times of the prophetic as well as the deliverance ministry. So I just wanted to get your aspect on, looking at deliverance, has God given you any new revelation or anything that'll be like, okay, this is what I
Well, I wouldn't say it was new.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was new, but the revelation I have for the ministry of deliverance is that it's not something that is something that you just do. It's a one-off type of deal. I think the deliverance should be an active part of the church, just like the prophetic. But what we see today in today's, I want to be branded on my own, my own stuff and under my own name environment, is that anybody with gifts, no matter what they are, they go out and want to launch off into their own thing. But the church, the church where people attend and gather and all that type of stuff, it should have all the gifts in there together. So, what we're seeing and what we've been seeing is that somebody has a prophetic gift, they go off and they want to be the prophet, but they don't want to submit to a local church body. Somebody has a gift, or I almost said a gift, but because it's not a gift, but somebody operates heavily in the ministry of deliverance. They want to go out and they just want deliverance, and they don't want to be under a local church body. They just want to go out and do deliverance and kind of brand themselves as that deliverance minister. But the church, the physical church where everybody comes together, physical and spiritual church where we all gather and come together, needs to have all those components within the church, not as a separate brand, not as we focus on, but it needs to be a part of the local body, including all the other gifts and all the other leadership giftings and stuff like that. Those things all need to be within the confines of the church and not one-off. This person over here does this, or this person over there does that, but it needs to be all in one place. And so if anything I could tell the people listening who may operate in these different giftings or assignments or ministries is that to make sure that you don't drift away from the local church, because God is doing something in you. We're not called to drift or leave the church to go and do our own thing, but we're called to be a part of the body, to work together to make the mission of Christ go forward.
Hey, I definitely agree. Here's one question that I want to ask you. And I've heard ministers say that they used to do deliverance, but they don't do it anymore. So my question is, why is it that some ministers walk away from the ministry of deliverance? And I ask myself, how can you walk away?
Well, every individual has their own reasoning for the reason why they do stuff. Some people, may become fearful or offended with the ministry. Some people may look at it as being unfruitful. Some people may look at it as unneeded, which I think all of those things are wrong to look at it like that. But I think for the most part, it's very it's not convenient, if I can say that, for ministry. It's not convenient, because it exposes the raw underbelly of spiritual things. When you start dealing with deliverance and demons and manifestation of devils and this and that, some people think if they leave the devils alone, devil's going to leave them alone, which is a bad way to think. But they think that, or they think they can't grow their church because the demon manifested, or they don't want to do that much, or you got to have a special gift to do it. I mean, it's all different types of reasons. And some people were just doing it in the wrong way. Whereas they made their mission overall is to, I have a church and we cast out demons at our church. That's all we do is set folks free, but any minister that's truly been in deliverance ministry, who truly led by the Holy Spirit, knows that deliverance many times is just the first step to a long walk in Christ that keeps you free. So there could be a lot of different reasons, but I think ultimately whether it's the flesh that wants to leave it alone for whatever reason they have for themselves, they want to gain in some type of way, or the enemy is just trick their mind out to make them think it's not needed anymore. It's probably some of the reasons.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. I've actually, heard of people saying, okay, we used to do deliverance, but God is bringing us into the prophetic, so we really don't touch that anymore.
Yeah, because they're looking at it like a brand. They're looking at it like a brand. I mean, if you do a prophetic, you can. You can't say, well, okay, I'm a prophet, so I'm to deliverance. That doesn't make any sense to me. The Bible doesn't assign the gift of deliverance to people according to their leadership roles in the body of Christ, or what part of the fivefold they're in. If you have the Holy Spirit on the inside, if you walk in the power of the kingdom, then you can cast devils out, whether you're an apostle, prophet, pastor, teacher, whatever you are, you're just a member in the church. If you have the Holy Spirit, you have the authority to deal with devils. And so I don't know why people say that, but people like the prophetic. It pays better. Yeah. People have a nosy, the flesh is nosy. It wants to hear stuff. It wants to know about things, and the prophetic fulfilled a lot of people's, unfortunately, their carnal desires. They want to hear. They want to know. They want to know when their husband is coming with. They're going to be rich. When the door is going to open. They want to hear those things. And so money many times tends to flow with the ministry of the prophetic, because people are wanting to hear stuff, and they give money for you to be able to tell or confirm to what they want to hear. And so I would say it's more lucrative to be on the side of the prophetic. And I think also it's easier to pretend on the side of the prophetic also than it is on the side of deliverance.
Yeah.
When somebody when somebody is truly casting out demons and the devils are really manifesting, you know what I'm saying? You can tell that the power of God is moving. But in the prophetic, they can just be walking around lying.
Exactly.
And if you can't discern it, they could just be lying and, deceiving and being deceived. And it's hard for people to tell unless they have the ability to discern.
Exactly. I got to give you some applause on that one. Thank you for that one. So I want to ask you, because I know some people, they don't believe in generational curses and soul ties. And a lot of that language, goes with the ministry of deliverance. You think you can explain to the people, just give a general oversight on curses and soul ties? Because a whole lot of people don't believe it. But since looking at your film, I come to understand, like, yo, man, this stuff is real.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, things get, you see it all the time. I remember I was talking to someone, and they were telling me about their family, and their whole family, from generations, from grandfather to father to son to all the brothers and stuff, got tied up in the same type of situation. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. But generally what's going on is that somewhere down the line, someone got tied in with something that was ungodly, and that thing has stayed in their generation. And it gets passed down from person to person to person. We see it all the time. We see it with sicknesses. We see it with, the state that a person ends up in life. We see it in marriages and all these types of things. It keeps on reproducing itself. It goes from person to person. If it's not dealt with, it goes from person to person. It keeps reproducing itself in the next person in that generation, the next line of person in that particular lineage. It reproduces itself. So curses are real. People can speak things over people. People can work witchcraft against people. People can do things that bring curses or open the door to the realm of the demonic on themselves, and it will affect them. And, the people that want to dismiss generational curses, they want to dismiss, all these things, getting tied to your bloodline and stuff like that, are people who just want to wish away all the hidden stuff. They want to make the spirit realm easy and non-confrontational, and they don't have to worry about it. See, a lot of people in this life, we deal with so much. We deal with a lot that we see. We're experiencing it. We're dealing with people deal with finances. They deal with relationships. They deal with health. They deal with jobs and businesses. And we got all these things that we're dealing with straight up. Sometimes people got criminal issues. We're dealing with things that we can see. So we deal with so much in the natural. Sometimes we want to escape when it comes to things of the spiritual. We don't want to go into a spiritual type relationship with God, and we got to fight then, because we're already fighting in the natural life. We're already fighting in our marriages. We're already fighting in our businesses. We're already dealing with health issues. We're already dealing with crime. We're already dealing with racism or whatever. You know what I'm saying? We're already dealing with all these things. And so when it comes to God, we're looking at God as our escape as a whole. We're looking at God as our escape from the realities of this world, not realizing that when you deal with the spirit, there's an aspect of, as the movie talks about, light and darkness, good and evil, that you're contending with also. But and another thing you don't realize is, but many times that evil, the things you're dealing with in the natural life, are a direct fruit of the things you're dealing with in the spiritual life. And so people want to explain that away because they want to deal with God. And I don't have to, when I come to God and when I do things spiritual, I don't have to worry about anything. I go back to my natural life. I struggle with everything. I come to God. I try to be in the spirit. I don't want to have to deal with anything. And so I think a lot of people just miss it because they don't want to go. They don't want to go there. They don't even want to think about that, and I think that's why you see people kind of trying to get away from it.
Okay. I totally agree. So with the filming over in Africa, was there any mention of witch doctors and so forth? Because I know when you start talking about Africa and everything like that, you start looking into witch doctors and people putting hexes on people. And I ain't gonna lie, that can be terrifying to some. It's like even trees that talk. I'm like, some of the things that I've heard about over in Africa, I'm like, is any of that in this upcoming film?
Yeah, there's many stories, and I had so many stories. A lot of them I couldn't even put in the film. There were just so many stories of things. These are pastors, these are leaders of churches that have experienced these things, not something they heard, but something literally that they were face to face with. But I'll tell you one story in the Bible. There was a person who had died, and the witch doctors came, and they were trying to figure out who killed the person. And, they asked the question, such and such killed you, raise up and stroke these herbs. And they said the dead man literally rose up and stroked the herbs and then laid back down and went back dead again. These are things that people have witnessed, the darkness that's been operating. In Africa, they've been doing this stuff for this is not just something they just saw on YouTube and they trying to learn how to do it, or they just got on social media. A lot of people in America are starting to drift into that stuff because they're seeing online, they're seeing on TV, they're seeing on movies, they think it's cool. They go buy books from the store or whatever. But these folks in Africa have been dealing in this type of dark arts, man, for thousands of years. Yeah. And so they're very well ingrained. Witchcraft is very well ingrained in Africa. One of the ministers on the movie said that witchcraft is like eating porridge in the morning in Africa. He said it was that simple. Yeah. Because it's just ingrained in the society, and so they see a lot of crazy things.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I say about Africa is that it's probably the most, when it comes to spirituality, it's probably the most spiritual place on the face of the planet, because when you have Christian people go over and God is using them in the gifts, they're like, yo, I got better results in Africa than I did in the States. So, well,
the people over there, they those people over there, the resistance is different over there because people have more faith in those areas than they do in America. America, man, we're so retail in America. Everything is like retail. Retail is like circus. It looks good on the outside. It's shiny. You know what I'm saying? But there's no depth. You know what I'm saying? The same thing with people's Christianity, man. It's retail. It's shiny. They got nice churches, nice sanctuaries. It's shiny. It's cool. They on TikTok doing their little messages and stuff like that. You know, hope I'm not offending anybody, but, you know, in Africa, you know, those people are starving over there. So many times their faith, in some parts of Africa, their faith is all they have. You know, they're looking for results. It's not a relationship with Christ or being a Christian for many Africans is not a pastime or something that I fit into my busy schedule. It is literally like the saving power for them in their life.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was told, I said, hey, if you go to Africa, you can't preach no 45 minutes. I was told that. I was told, yo, you're going to have to go two hours at least, minimum.
Yeah.
You know, because some of these people, they walk long distances to hear the word of God.
Absolutely.
So I totally get it. I totally get what you say about retail here, because it's like, man, if you go over 45 minutes, people start leaving the church. It's like,
I've had people call me and ask me how long my church service was. I told them I didn't put a time on it, you know, but I gave them a roundabout, which is around an hour and a half, 2 hours for the whole service.
Yeah.
And they was like, well, I can't come to your church too long. And they hung on the phone. Oh. But that, you know, I had people come and attend and be like, oh, they would leave that door. They was like, oh, the church lasts too long here. And I'm like, well, I pray that, you know, God leads you somewhere that, you know, you can grow out of that, you know. But, you know, I think a lot of ministers, and I think a lot of ministers get tempted with that. I think at some point within your spiritual walk, within your spiritual growth, I think that there's a time of testing that comes to a leader. And that's why you see some churches that are completely sold out to marketing and retail, retailing Christians, and some preachers who haven't, is because there comes a time where you get tested in that area where it's like, what do you want to do? What are you willing to do to have more members? Not more souls saved, but where are you willing to compromise? Where are you willing to bend so that you can grow your church? And it's almost like you come into covenant with devils, because devils grow churches. Devils grow churches all over the place.
Wow.
And if you come into covenant with something that's unrighteous, then evil spirits will help you grow your church. And that may sound crazy and it may sound out there, but absolutely. Yeah. And that's what happens. People say, well, I don't want deliverance in my church, or I'm going to cut my church service down to 30 minutes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You know what I'm saying? You know, it turns into witchcraft, for one, because now you're manipulating the minds of men, but you're also catering to a worldly mind and not giving them what they need, but giving them what they want. That's what retail does, right? You go to Walmart, they're not going to sell you, you know what I'm saying, a broken game, because you're not coming there to buy a broken game. Okay? You're coming there to buy a game that's well put together. So they're going to sell you games that are well put together. I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
So the church is going to offer, the churches that are caught up in the retail aspect of Christianity and the carnal aspect, they're going to give you what you're coming for, even if it's outside of the lines of Scripture. Okay. I'm not saying all churches. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all churches like this, but there's a lot of churches. Like, I knew churches that were, you know, they were shooting hoops in the pulpit while they're preaching. They bring in secular radio hosts to sit up in the pulpit and broadcast. You know, they're running business ads while the preacher's preaching over the overhead. I mean, just all types of merchandising type of stuff, man. Because that's what they use to draw the people in and to keep the people in the church. And I think at the end of the day, you know, you're putting yourself in danger from God on those things. If I can, I had a dream that I had many years ago, and I was getting ready to get up. There was a lot of people inside this room, and there was a stage in the middle, and I was getting ready to go up and preach. But before I had an opportunity to even get my stuff together and go up, another man ran up on the stage. I'd never seen him before. And while he was up there, he was teaching so eloquently, and it was just beautiful the way he was teaching. I mean, he was clean, he had a suit on, but he was not supposed to be up there. He's teaching eloquent. I was like, what the world's going on? I don't even know, who is this guy? I said, y'all get him down there. Get him down there. So the men of the church said, you got to get off the stage. You're not supposed to be. So he left the building. And but I still didn't go up on stage, and I was walking around back, and I saw the man, and his face was plastered up against the window to the room. So he was outside, and his face was plastered against the window. And he was looking like he was like drooling and stuff, looking at the people. And the Spirit of God said to me, he is lusting after the people. It wasn't a righteous thing. He was lusting for the attention. Okay.
Yeah.
And while I was looking at him, another man ran up on the stage. And this man said, I'm an alcoholic. Where are all my alcoholics? And all the people in the church was like, wow. You know, people like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic too. And they was like celebrating. He was talking about how he was weak. Everybody else was weak in the church. You know what I'm saying? And he was celebrating. I was like, what in the world? Get him off the stage.
Yeah.
But he was up there preaching to his weakness. He was making his weakness be something. So he was wanting to draw the people because he was broken. So you see people in the church say they broken, you broken, we all broken.
Yeah.
You know, so we congregate together because we're all broken, that type of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And so he was drawing people off his brokenness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And how he was in bondage, and so we all in bondage together, you know, which is not scriptural. And so the Lord was just showing me how these issues of the flesh, these issues of the heart, people were building churches based on these things.
Exactly. And I totally agree. And while you were saying that, I started seeing the cave of Adullam and the people going to David in the cave of Adullam. And the one thing about it is that, you know, they came and out of that, David transformed. He became king. Out of that, you got, you know, the mighty men out of that as well. And the new kingdom. And I look at it, it's so many people, they gather to themselves. The Bible says that people will gather to themselves, you know, teachers having itching ears. And that's what we see right now. It's like, man, you better not preach about holiness. Holiness is like, that's so passe now.
We're living in some dangerous times from a spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
You know, people are teaching all types of wildness. And I think I probably said this in your last podcast. Social media is the drive for that. What it did was social media gave a platform to people who were not it's so easy to go on there. Like I see people going on social media and just posting random stuff all the time, like weird stuff. You were like, why are you even posting on social media? But because they want to have a presence. You know what I'm saying? It's so easy to go on there and people just do it because it's free, it's easy, you can do it on your phone. So what happened was people who would never ever like try to get trained to learn or be taught to become ministers or try to do it the right way, those people that can just one day sit around and be like, man, I got a word from God for the people. They hadn't prayed about it, they hadn't vetted it, but because they have enough heart to get on there and press the live button, you know, now they're on there prophesying to people. And if enough people like what they hear, then they'll develop a following. So all of a sudden they have a following. They ain't got the spirit. They haven't grown the things of God. But because it was such an easy access for them to do it, they went out and began to do it and began to develop a following.
Yeah.
And so we see that on so many different levels. Not saying that everybody on Facebook is not called. That's not what I'm saying, because there are people that are called. But what I've seen is that Satan is propelling the ones more so than the ones that are true. He is propelling the ones that are not called because he knows he has the power to use them to influence, to affect people and cause people to be destroyed spiritually. And that's what we're seeing. I give you an example. There was a guy, I can't think of his name. I wouldn't say his name anyway, but he had some issues. He looked strange in the face and he had some other stuff going on. So he used to get on there and preach. And this guy would have 3,000-4,000 people at any given time watching him preach. Okay.
Yeah. And
some will get on there and laugh at him. Some will say, oh, he's a true man of God, this and that or whatever. And I looked him up and I noticed that he wasn't even a leader in the church, but he was attending another man's church who was the pastor of the church. Okay. I went to the pastor's page. Pastor got no social media presence. He just preaching at the church. This guy got all these issues. Now he preached and got 3,000-4,000 people watching him. Okay. So now he got influence but he hasn't even been developed as a leader. Now get this now.
Yeah.
So something struck me bad in my spirit about it. Not that he had some obviously physical issues, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he should be preaching, but it was something that was not righteous about it. Even though he sounded like he was saying things that are holy, it was something that was not. It was almost like the Satan was using him as a mock, okay? Because he had more lives than everybody else out there, okay? And it was obvious. It was obvious to me, at least in the spirit, there was something going on with him.
Yeah.
And so he went on for about a year. Plenty of people followed him, and it came out that all these videos and stuff of him like having sex with men and stuff like that, all of a sudden surfaced on the internet.
Yeah.
And I said, see, something wasn't right about that, man.
Yeah.
And so his ministry kind of, waned a little bit because of that. But that's what the enemy does. He pumps people up to bring them down. He propels them up, puts them in a place of visibility, and lets them be exposed or uses them to speak and say things that will tear people down or send people to hell.
Exactly. You're so right on that. Because I remember a while back, it was this young guy. He was very prominent in the prophetic and everything. And he would do a whole lot of lives. And I think a lot of things that you're talking about, Clubhouse has totally just made it everything accessible. But getting back to the young man, he blew up. He was like an overnight sensation. He was actually going on TV and everything like that. But then his personal life began to blow up. And then it's like, oh my God. Rumors, him cheating on his wife, him having other women. Then one time somebody interrupted his live. And after that, we didn't hardly see no more about him. But it was a whole lot of scandal. And I think the one thing, you hit the nail on the head, because it's like these things get exalted and then it just brings a mockery to the church as well as to certain offices, like the office of the pastor, especially the office of the prophet. And it's like, and it's almost like, when you see these things happen, it's almost like, how can you believe it when you see these men? And it's almost like they have no integrity. So it's like these bad apples make everybody else look bad who actually have integrity and honor and are true to the office.
Well, there used to be a time where, the church had the ability to sit people down because they had no voice outside of the church. And so that's why the Lord formed the church. So you can have, people being held accountable. See, the church environment is supposed to have a level of accountability between leaders and members and just everybody in between. There's supposed to be accountability throughout. So if a person wants to be held in high esteem, as a minister of Christ, going out and preaching or preaching for the people and stuff like that. So it would be some type of vetting process. If you had a problem, with women, or men, you probably wouldn't make it to the pulpit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you had other things going on, if you were known to be this or that or whatever, it'd be a full process before that church would put their name behind you. But now people don't need a church to put their name behind them because they just go directly to social media and skip over all of that. Now, I know a lot of people have accused the church of holding them down or keeping them from going forth in their ministry and this and that, keeping them from spreading their wings and stuff like that. And I think some of that process has been abused, but I think that some of that process needs to be there, to keep what's happening now from happening. Because I know the gentleman you're talking about. You didn't have to say his name. I know exactly because of the situation you're talking about.
Yeah.
Those women, he has women calling him the Lord Jesus Christ. And not just a few, but hundreds of women calling him Jesus Christ. It's that level of demonic. And he was even on there making sexual innuendos in between his prophecies. Why was he able to do that? Because he went around any type of sound Christian body, putting their name on him and saying this is a good man of God, but he just went straight to social media and started acting foolish, and there was no barrier. So you have all these captive, silly, I'll say, people, who just heard it. They was in the flesh. They liked how he looked. They liked what he said, and it made sense to them. because they weren't being ministered to anyway. They don't know what the truth is. And so they just attach to them. And so they become mesmerized. They become, whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? But they come under the spell of that person. He operates out of a demonic spirit. It's a spell that he places, or some people call it bewitching. He bewitches them with his prophetic words. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
His image and his prophetic bewitches them, and they fall under his spell. He probably doesn't think that, but that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't sit him down. I mean, that's his Facebook page. It's his stuff. They want to follow him. You can't find all the people that are spread all over the country that follow him. So he just continues to deceive.
Yeah,
and that's the problem we have today.
Exactly. I gotta give you some applause on that one. I'm getting ready to start some trouble with this one. we seen the same thing when it came to the re-election of Donald Trump. And I mean, I'm like, oh my God. And I mean, just when I see the prophets and I hear the prophecies, and even today, it's like, man, y'all better let that go, because you have not only messed up your name, you've messed up your integrity, and you making the church, look bad. I mean, real bad. I mean, it's like, oh my God, Lord, it's going to take us at least 20 years to get past that. And that's just my personal opinion. Right.
I tell you what, brother, I would have been sure enough embarrassed if you'd asked me that question and I had prophesied that.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
No.
But the problem with a lot of people in the church, man, is that they have allowed politics to cloud their spiritual vision. They fell in love with the party and they fell in love with the man. And neither one of them is righteous, and neither one of them is the savior or the lead of the body of Christ. And so out of their own hearts, out of their own flesh, they spoke what they desired. And I think God allowed it. He allowed them to, because they should have known better. They should have known they're supposed to be a prophet of the Lord. They're speaking to all these people, whether it's 10 people or thousands or millions of people. They should have known better to allow Satan to begin to speak those lies to them and to speak things that God has not said. Obviously, it's obvious now. He didn't say it, of course, because it didn't happen what they said. But we see it unfortunately on both sides, where there's a portion of the church that's caught up on one side of the political spectrum, and there's another part of the church that's caught up on the other side of the political spectrum.
Exactly.
And and they're letting themselves be divided. Number one, which is not good. They're divided against their own brother in Christ, but also they're getting hung up on these leaders that are neither side are righteous. I tell people all the time, look, nobody in the political system is not righteous. It's not God ordained.
Yeah. It's
not God's thing. Okay, it's the system that America is under right now, but it's not God. You know what I'm saying? And versus being focused on the kingdom, people got focused on their favorite candidates, and it led them into confusion, led them into false prophesying. A lot of ministries got really embarrassed. I mean, big, well-known ministries got embarrassed because they were prophesying things that God had not said. Shame on them, is what I say, for even opening your mouth. It's like I saw a minister many years ago. He was on his program prophesying who was going to win the Super Bowl, and he sounded like Paul up there. You know what I'm saying? Talking about, well, God had told me this, but the Spirit definitely told me this over. You know how Paul would separate what was from the Spirit and what was from the... So they were speaking like they knew what they was talking about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
He said, well, God is telling me about this, but he definitely said this person was going to win this game here. And it still didn't happen. And I said, shame on them.
Yeah.
For thinking that they're using their ministry platform to prophesy about who's going to win a football game.
Yeah.
But...
That almost goes over into witchcraft, because it's like, if you start calling games, when you gonna start calling numbers? Because it's like, let me get his prophet some money so he can give me the 4 digits that I need to play for the night and day.
Man, you become a psychic and a witch, man. Exactly. You start messing around and stuff, you become a psychic and a witch. A lot of people go to prophets, and I was talking to my wife earlier about this. A lot of people go to prophets and stuff, man, because they want to. They want to prosper. They like the idea of prospering. You know what I'm saying? They think the prophet is the key to prospering. You know, what should I do to find my fortune? They want the prophet to prophesy wealth and riches and abundance. Anytime somebody starts saying that stuff to me, man, I just look the other way. You know, I remember one time I had a man of God was praying. I was standing there and he was telling me about how God was going to give me all these houses and cars and stuff. And he looked at me and said, I didn't even look. I just was standing there. He was like, you don't care nothing about all that, do you? I said, nah, bro. I said, you speaking to the wrong one when it comes, you know, trying to sell me on wealth, because I know in the things of God, it goes beyond natural wealth, man. You know, Jesus was wanting us to be more focused on the eternal than the carnal. And so our driver should not be the carnal, but that's what Satan drives us. That's all he has to offer. He drives with the carnal. So he prophesies wealth and riches all the time to everybody. And people give, oh, he's going to be rich. I'm going to give him $1,000 because you've been hurting and you've been struggling all this time. And the prophet made you feel so good. So you got to align with them. And I mean, I can get into a lot of stuff, man, but you got to align with the prophet so that you can begin to prosper and you'll have wealth and all that type of stuff, man. Get that stuff out of here. That's straight from the pit of hell.
Yeah.
You need to align with the prophet. You need to align with God. You need to align with Jesus Christ. That's who you need to align with. And even if you don't achieve or have nothing else financially in this life, if you have Christ, then you have achieved all. Yeah. And that's what people miss.
Yeah, I got to give you some applause on that. You know, because I think the one thing, even when it comes to wealth, you can hook up with wealth coaches to show you how to invest, show you the language of finance. And the one thing that nobody wants to tell you is that it's like seed in the ground. When you start to invest, you start to save, it's like seed in the ground. Is it going to pop up immediately? Nah. But I think a lot of times, you know, people, they get so enamored by the prophet saying, oh yeah, you give God 500, he going to give you $500,000. He going to give you 500,000. And we like that because it triggers us. You know what I mean? It triggers us. And I was talking about this on Clubhouse yesterday and everything, because we were talking about how is it that people fall away from God. I was like, they fall away because they don't see the integrity. And I told them, I said, when the prosperity message first started booming, we only had one side of it. People were giving, they got the inspirational side, they got the preaching side, but they never got the natural side. So how is it I can prophesy supernatural debt cancellation when you don't even know how to use your credit cards? So that means if I'm going to teach that or preach that or even prophesy that, I need to bring in teachers to show people the language of money. Because I look at it, so many people got lost. They lost they lost thousands of dollars. But you have these men of God say, oh, you just need to be happy. You know, you sold into the kingdom. I'm like, yeah, I sold into the kingdom. You got a mansion and I ain't got no place to live because I gave you my rent money.
Well, here's the thing, man. You know, natural wealth and riches are a low form of blessing. If you're trying to get it from God, it's a low form of blessing from God. Yeah. You know, it's something that Satan can offer also. Yeah. We see people all day long, even every day, becoming millionaires. You don't have to go to God to necessarily become a millionaire, but you do have to go to God to receive eternal salvation. And many times other supernatural things that Satan cannot give. But natural attainment, you know, I work in the insurance industry. I know plenty of guys making $40,000, $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month. They're not even thinking about God, and they're young guys, so they're prospering naturally. They're prospering. They have stuff. They have attainment. They have status. They have businesses and all that type of stuff. Those things can be attained on either side. Now, of course, we want it through Christ, and I do believe God will give that to people. You know what I'm saying? But we have to understand that is not the pinnacle of blessings, but rather the start of blessings, I would say. Yeah. But it's not the pinnacle. And that's where we get messed up, just because we spend our whole life going after wealth and riches, and that's not the greatest gift that God can give to us. Yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying. You know, we go after wealth and riches, and then the lust of other things come in, and they choke that word. They choke that salvation out of us.
Exactly. So we have to be careful that we put everything on. There's nothing wrong with people having wealth, and nothing wrong with people attaining things and being successful, especially when it comes to God. There's nothing wrong with that. I believe God will prosper you. but we have to put the value of things in order.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key that a lot of people miss, is that things are out of order, and they only seek the attainment, and they don't seek the other things, the more richer things of God, which comes only through the Spirit, only through the eternal.
Yeah. Let me give you some applause on that, Apostle. So let me ask you this, and I've gotten into debates about this. I was saying that the church lost a little bit of its power because we lost a little bit of our integrity. And I thoroughly believe that if we get to the place where we come back to integrity and just start being honest, then we will probably see more people come back to the church, because a lot of people are leaving the church, have left the church, because what they've seen, the folly in us, the sins and everything like that. And I was like, we got to come back to integrity. So I just want to get your opinion on that. About the church and integrity in what way? In what way? Give me a little bit more detail when you're saying that, so I can answer. Yeah, integrity in the fact of, okay, I'm not gonna blow smoke on you. I'm gonna be honest with you. You need to get saved. This is what the Word of God says. You mean getting back to preaching salvation to people is what you're saying? Yeah, pretty much. The simplicity of the gospel, because I've seen so many things come into the church, and I see people trying to make the Bible politically correct. I'm like, man, look, the Bible will never be politically correct. I don't care how you try to spin it. Sorry. Well, I think that once again we go back to wanting to build and grow ministries. We gauge our success many times by the number of people that attend on Sunday. I'm talking about from people who lead the lead churches that meet. You know what I'm saying? We gauge our success based on attendance. If the people are falling out the door, you know what I'm saying, we think we're successful. If the people are scattered in there, we think we're unsuccessful. Even though the scattered church people could be way more close to God than the church is packed out. But, I think that a lot of times, like we were saying before, the ministers preach according to what they think is going to keep people. The pastors preach. They run churches in a way to hold people, to keep people. So they won't leave. So they'll be sitting there and they won't want to go. And we just want to love on them. So they'll stay and this and that. So we get into this whole dynamic of trying to keep people. And some messages don't work well. I'm just being honest with you. We're going back to a retail mindset. Some messages, like if you walked into Walmart and they told you we don't like black folks, you're not going back to that Walmart, are you? I'm going to Target. Right. So they would never say that, right? Because, you know what I'm saying, they would offend you and you never come back. And so that's an extreme example, but just giving you an idea of, so what a retail place do. They try to become as non-offensive as possible. So you go in and the things around you see around probably are multi-ethnic workers, multi-ethnic, you know what I'm saying, advertisements. You know what I'm saying? You see all these things that, they may have the lighting a certain way, this and that or whatever. They do everything to make you want to come back, want you to have, and some places do it better than others, but they want you to have a good experience while you're there. So they won't do anything to offend you. You see what I'm saying? And that goes all the way up. And I don't think there's anything wrong to give somebody a good experience when they come to church, but it goes all the way up to what you're saying from the pulpit. And this is why I'm not good at growing churches and making churches bust out the seam, because if you come to my church, if God tells me something in the spirit and it's dealing with you and something about you ain't right, I might not call you out and say this is what God said about you, but you'll probably hear it from the pulpit and it might strike you. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not concerned about whether or not a person stays, and I'm going to preach what God says. I might be kind, but I will give the truth. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And so a lot of ministers aren't going to preach and teach things that are going to make people leave their church. Yeah. They're just not going to do it. I've spoken to someone. Now, I'm not saying all preachers, but a lot of ministers are not going to do things that'll cause people to leave their church. Yeah. Exactly. And they're not going to stand on. That's why a lot of churches don't preach on certain. They just don't even. So rather than preach against, now they may feel against something, but they won't talk about it. See, it's almost like if you don't talk about it, you're not against it. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So you could be against something but never say nothing, and that person be in your church, and they'll stay around because they don't even know you're against it because you don't even speak on it.
So a lot of churches are doing that. That's called insidious preaching, where you just kind of preach around stuff. Don't ever say nothing.
Look, you know what? I'm gonna start some trouble with you. So it almost because it's almost like, well, you know, as long as I preach grace, then, you know, I don't have to deal with all that stuff. You know, because I look at it like this, is, you know, God's grace and yeah, you might be doing this, but God's grace will cover you. But nobody ever talks about the grace period running out.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Grace is only for a season, you know. You know, we're in the season of grace now, but it's only for a season. It's a grace period. Just like you have a grace period on your mortgage, your rent, you know what I'm saying, whatever else. And if you don't pay it by a certain time, there's a penalty. Same thing with the grace of God. There's a penalty. Listen, what I'm saying, there's a penalty when your grace period runs out and you have not given what you need to give. And for salvation, of course, is giving our soul to Christ. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so if you have not done that, then your grace period runs out. Then there comes the judgment, you know, or the penalty for not doing what you had an opportunity to do. And so preachers, many times, I hear some preachers talk about, let the Holy Spirit do the work. Well, that's a coward. He's scared for people to leave. He's scared to offend somebody. Don't want to say anything. I remember one time I was working for a cleaning company. I would sell cleaning services to businesses, and I was working with another church, and I was, you know, getting them set up for cleaning services to come into their church. It's a pretty decent sized church, and the dude was like kind of tiptoeing around. And he said, "Oh, come over here." He said, "I don't want to be in front of this person." I'm like, "Man, what's going on?" I'm kind of confused on why he's tipping around and stuff. But he said, "We got to be quiet." I was like, "Oh, okay." And he was like, "You know, we have a member that's been cleaning the church, but he doesn't do a good job. So, but we don't want to tell him that and let him go because we're scared he's going to leave." And he didn't know I was a leader of a church myself. And I just kind of looked at him. But I'm thinking in my mind, you know, you are hiring another company to come behind somebody who's not doing a good job because you're scared they're going to lead the church if you tell them they got to do a better job. But that's the type of fear, unfortunately, that some people or a lot of leaders live under, and just not tell them the truth because they don't want to offend and lose people.
Oh my God. I can't help but ask, were they paying this person?
Yes, and that was the even crazier part about it. They were paying the person to do the work, and they were going to pay my company also to come in and do the work and just do it at a different time so he wouldn't know. But they were just wanting somebody to come behind him and clean up.
Yeah. Oh my God. See, that's what I mean about integrity. It's like you can't even be honest with the man to tell him that he's doing a bad job, so you're going to pay him and then probably pay somebody else more to come in because you can't be honest enough to tell this guy, "Yo, dude, we don't like how you doing it."
Right. You know, the church has to get back to telling the truth, man. And just dealing with people and whatever. You know, we need to tell the truth on all ends, whether it's in something that's, you know, carnal like that, we're dealing with somebody cleaning the church, all the way up to, you know, the truth of the scriptures, man. We need to teach the whole truth. We need to avoid subjects. Now, I don't think we should harp on one subject. I know a lot of times, you know, when you say something about certain subjects, you know, they say, "Oh, the church always say something about that." But, well, you know, you should say something about that and everything else. You know, but you ought not to leave it out. And that's what I tell them. When they say that to me, you know, when I say something about certain subjects, they'll say, "Oh, what about people who do this sin and that sin?" I said, "Brother, I preach against all sin, including the one I just spoke about."
Yes.
And so you're not going to silence me because you say, "What about the other sins?" They're all sin will lead you to death. It'll lead you to eternal damnation.
Yeah.
So all the sin needs to stop, not just at once, but all of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they get quiet then because they realize I'm not going to just fold back and not talk about it. You're not going to make me feel guilty about anything. I'm not apologizing for condemning sin. And that's another thing. When these churches get up and apologize for condemning sin, foolishness.
Yeah.
Foolishness. But that's where the church is going. We're fearful. We're scared. We don't want to offend people. We don't want to be in the news. We don't want people marching in front of our buildings. We don't want to be labeled as this or that or whatever. I mean, they're labeling churches as hate organizations now for preaching the gospel, for even professing publicly exactly what the scripture is saying. They're labeling some churches hate organizations, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But that's what we're saying.
Yeah. And I say, man, we are definitely in the last days. I'm like, we are definitely in the last days. It's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. We just need to embrace it. Know what time we're in, and stick with who we are in Christ. We don't need to change. We're not conforming. We're not giving in. We're going to preach the gospel. We're going to live according to the word of God. You know what I'm saying? You can get on board if you want to, but if not, God bless you. I pray that the just judge judges you according to his will, and that's what I tell him. And I keep on going.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it ain't me. It's not for me to judge another man. Because they're all God. But I give them the truth. They can receive it, but then they won't be able to get before God and say, I was never told. And that's where the leader is going to be in trouble before God. Yeah. And they get before God, and God said, you had all these people, but you never told them the truth. I don't want to be that person.
Yeah, exactly. I got to give you some applause on that one. So I want to ask, will we be able to stream this new movie on Amazon?
Yes, actually, it won't be on Amazon. That's another piece of spiritual warfare I ran into. But
wow,
they're not accepting any more documentary content unless they ask for it.
Okay. So where will we be able to get it at?
You'll be able to get it at saltflix.com. You'll be able to get it on my website at kingdomauthority.org. You'll be able to get it at lightanddarknessmovie.com, and you'll also be able to get it at Vimeo on demand.
Okay.
So those places it'll be available, and it'll be easy to find and easy to watch. When it comes out in September.
All right. Thank you for that. So Apostle James, you got any upcoming projects coming up? Because I know you're doing a documentary on the prophet.
Yes.
How's that coming along?
Well, I haven't started. I've been gathering together my leaders that I'm going to interview.
Yeah.
But it's going to be called False Prophet.
Okay.
And basically, it's going to pretty much dissect the different. I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to expose any particular false prophets or anything in it. I might. But more than likely, I'll just be speaking from a general aspect and general dangers. I was thinking I might even bring a little bit of Jim Jones and the thing that happened with Jim Jones, and maybe even interview somebody that got caught up in the whole Jim Jones thing that happened.
Yeah,
that may be the only false prophet that actually named by name.
Yeah.
But it's basically going to be breaking down the dangers of false prophets. Some of the stuff we talked about them on this call, and just how through the ages, false prophets have manipulated the people of God, and how witches and warlocks have worked their way into the church and spoke falsely to the people of God. Of course, it's the spirit of Jezebel, but and what's happened with that, and just have all the ministers speak on it.
Yeah. If you definitely do that whole thing with Jim Jones, you're probably going to end up looking at Father Divine, because the one thing about Jim Jones, he caused a split in Father Divine's church and organization and everything.
Right.
Because I was looking at a documentary on Father Divine, and a lot of people, some ministers, they actually want to try to not be Father Divine, but, do what he did. I mean, he had businesses, property all over the place. I was like, wow. And I mean, he just had like a large following. So,
right. Reverend Ike.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What you saying?
No, I said it was just crazy when, looking at that documentary, some of the people that followed him are still around, and they still believe that he is amongst them. And I mean, these people are wealthy and everything. Got properties all over the place. I was like, wow. But
right there, the devil can get you money now. The devil can get you wealth, and look at Reverend Ike. You know about Reverend Ike, right?
Yeah.
And he used to be on TV. And I remember when I was a kid, he used to put a green dot on the screen, and if you touch the green dot, you'd be wealthy. The show came across like a church service, but he never really talked about the Bible. He just talked about getting money. It was weird, the weirdest thing. But I remember watching that as a child. But he has sons and stuff that he birthed out. Now he's dead, and he has sons that came behind him that are doing a similar type of work. But there's a lot of falseness out there, and those things are easily discernible sometimes. Especially on like Reverend Ike and stuff, because all he did was preach on money. So those type of false prophets are easy to discern, but there's a lot of underlying hidden false prophets out there also, and we're going to break that down, the dangers of that also. But just really help people's eyes to be open. I'm not. Some people might think I'm going after the prophetic. I'm not going after the prophetic. I'm just, as an apostle, my job is to clean up the mess. And so, the primary goal of this film is to clean up the deception, or to expose the deception that's been behind the ministry of the prophet, so the truth can come forward.
Amen. All right. So, Apostle Alford, how can people follow you?
Well, they can go to my website, jamesalford.org, or they can go to kingdomauthority.org, and they can just follow my page. I have my Facebook pages still, but Facebook has banned me from being able to build my page or anything like that. So I've kind of pulled my ministry away from Facebook because they're trying to keep me from getting the truth out. Yeah, you know what?
You're the second minister that has said that, because Prophet John Veal, he was talking about shadow banning and everything. I was like, what's going on with Facebook and the ministers? It's like, I don't get it.
You got to be careful about how you build your platform. Yeah, that's why, like I said, Amazon, they're taking these documentary content, so they cut down my distribution from Amazon. I don't think that was directly against me. That was just an overall. But documentaries push narratives, and so they pretty much now only choose the narrative that they want to go across on their platform. But yeah, with the social media sites, man, they if you're pushing the edge of the narrative they want to put out there, if you're speaking to things they don't want you talking about, they'll ban you. For me, they didn't remove me all the way off of Facebook, but what they did was they made it where I could not advertise. So I could not promote my page. I could not get a voice that reached beyond my natural organic flow, which of course, that's low. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I would have to pay to get a lot of people to see my message and stuff like that. Yeah. But they banned it because they didn't like the message. And all I did was I shared a post from a larger Christian publication dealing with transsexuals. And they were just reporting on the news something that happened. And I shared it to my page. They flagged it. I reshared again after they flagged it. And they banned my advertising. Wow. That's literally all I did. Wow. And, so I'm just like, okay, but that's why we have to be careful that we're not building our platforms on these social media places. We need to be building our platforms in places that we can control. Yeah. And so that's one of the things I've been working on, is building spaces that I have control over, my ministry has control over, so nobody can turn us off. Nobody can come back and say, we're going to remove your stuff offline. We're going to remove your apps. We're going to remove your this, move your that. So we want to be in places that people, as long as they have internet, they can continue to access. And so that's what we're doing.
That's great. That's great. I ain't gonna lie. I might need to follow you on that one, because I remember being in Facebook. I mean, not Facebook, but YouTube. I ended up I was in YouTube jail. I was like, hold up,
right?
I'm in YouTube jail, and it was crazy because I did the exact same thing that you did. I used a portion of something that that was on the news, and I used it in one of my broadcasts, and they flagged it immediately. And I couldn't do nothing on YouTube for at least a couple weeks at least. Yeah. So what they do is they train you. They whip you and train you and let you back on, but now you're hesitant about the subject matter. See, my subject matter, all my stuff is controversial. I live in spiritual controversy. Okay, that's my ministry, and the ministry of discernment, exposing wickedness, darkness, things that have behind the scenes. That's all controversial stuff. And that's all I talk about. That's what most of my films are going to be about, controversial subjects. Like I got another film coming out. I think I'm going to call it The Gospel of Melanin. And basically it's exposing the era of, religions that are based on race,
like some of the black African Americans going after these religions that are based on their race, them being the chosen people. There's so many out there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But just exposing the era and how the brokenness of the black man has caused them to create these little religions that make them feel better as a black person, but really take them away from Christ.
Yeah.
So I got a documentary like that. These are all controversial. I have another one coming out. Talking about Sodom and Gomorrah.
Okay.
You know, talking about, it's called, Sodom, and it's going to expose Sodom, just that movement. I mean, so the gay movement or whatever. But yeah. So it's all my stuff is controversial. So it's I know I have to have my own platforms in order to be able to get that message out.
Yeah, exactly. Because I ain't gonna lie, when you start talking about the gospel of melanin, you gonna have a fight on your hands with that one. I'm telling you.
I know it's coming, brother, but the truth has to come out.
Yes.
It's ministering. I'm trying to unwind. See, I'm not speaking for somebody who's watching from the outside. I was caught up. I may have talked to you about this before, but I was caught up in an organization that did that back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And man, it built pyramids and all that, and then it wrote like 200-300 books, and I was caught up, and I actually stopped believing in Christ, following his ministry. But it was based on black people being the chosen race, and he started doing all types of weird stuff. He had a Ark of the Covenant, all kind of wild stuff, man. It was crazy.
Wow.
And it was called the Holy Tabernacle Ministries.
Wow.
And but yeah, it was deceiving, and so these are things that God has allowed me. Just like in the film, my first film, The Light in the Darkness, I talked about dabbling in witchcraft. I talked about a demon that showed up at my house, and all these other things I experienced back in the day when I wasn't in Christ. So also in that movie, I'll speak on, some part of the movie will be about the things I experienced dealing with, a gospel or a belief structure that was based on me being a black man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I look forward to that. I look forward to, The Light in the Darkness Part 2. I'm probably going to have to get it on Vimeo, being so Amazon ain't going to carry it. So I look forward to everything that you're doing. I so appreciate you. That's the God knows truth. We got to do another interview because I am so curious as to how you started your production company. But I know that's another interview for another day.
Absolutely, man. Well, just let me know, man. I'm thankful that you're interested to even talk about this stuff, man. I appreciate you greatly.
Oh yeah. Hey, I still would like, I don't know if you can do this or maybe Apostle Hopkins or maybe Apostle Pagani. Y'all got to please, I'm begging, do a documentary on the history of deliverance.
That's possible. That's possible. It would definitely. I would have to definitely bring some people in on that one because that's just so much history involved with that.
Yeah.
It would need a lot of research of people who beyond me. I'm saying, the research and stuff. But I would be open to it. I could produce it. Yeah. I would just need people to come in with me and with the research and the right people to be able to speak on that. But we can definitely do it.
Yeah. All right. But hey, look, Apostle, I so thank you. I'm so looking forward to your film dropping and everything. I can't wait to purchase it myself. So, hey, can you leave us with some words of encouragement and wisdom?
I would just say, stay focused on Christ in this time. And there's a lot of confusion out here, a lot of division on so many different levels. And just people just, not knowing what the right way and the wrong way is. Just stay focused on Christ and let God lead you. Pray, stay in your word, continue in who God has spoken, who you are over your life, and don't get off track. And then that's what I would say.
All right. Thank you for that. All right, Apostle, you have yourself a blessed evening, sir. I thank you for your time.
All right. God bless you, man.
All right. God bless you. All right. Bye. All right, guys, that was Apostle Alford. Man, I can't wait for that film to drop. I'm not going to lie. I can't wait for The Light in the Darkness Part 2 Africa edition to drop. So as you know it, man, Apostle, he is a great man of God. But the one thing about the Apostle the office of the apostle puts things in order. And when you start putting things in order and putting certain things in place, it's going to cause a controversy. So like he said, he causes controversy. His ministry at times will cause controversy. But the one thing that I want you to know is that this man has a love and a heart for the people of God and for God's church. So with that, guys, I just want to say, hey,
walk in the truth that makes you free every day. Follow Brother Leon on all social media outlets.